invite our panelists to join me on the floor, please. Thank you. Until they arrived, welcome to the session 11, Refugee, Immigration and Security in Democracy. I don't want to take a lot of time from our panelists, but I will tell a few sentences about experience from my country with refugees. We didn't have with immigration, but with refugees. I'm IVANA, for those who don't know me. I'm from Bosnia and Herzegovina. After the Second World War, we had a situation that a lot of people left the country for searching a job because of poverty, and they went mostly to Germany. But they just got there to find a job, and then they sent all the money to their homes in Bosnia and wanted to join those huge houses after they return and retire. And sadly, they didn't. A lot of them didn't enjoy this because of the next war that we had in 1990 that destroyed their houses, and they have to stay in Germany or any else and not enjoy their retirement. And the second time that we had a lot of refugees was after the war that we had in 1990s. And those kind of events, it's good for me that I see that we are not the only one that hate each other because of some differences, but we are the one that they were ready to kill each other because of our differences. In some country, it's political parties. In some country, it's a different skin color. In our country, it's religion, and we call each other. So there are Muslim, Orthodox, and Catholics. And actually, if we didn't have this, we will find something else. We will hate each other probably also because of a different political affiliation. So we found it ourselves good with our religion. And what's also funny is that it's the same story. I mean, for more than 100 years, you can find in letters from Sarajevo, the capital of Bosnia and Herzegovina, that said, you know, Sarajevo is not the same place anymore. There are some strange people coming to town. They are not so good enough for Sarajevo. They came from villages or smaller cities, and they are just making it all bad. And we can use this letter every 10 years. Now, after all wars or problems, we have new people coming to Sarajevo. And again, the same story. It's not different. It's a different city and so on. The same is after the war, 1990. It's always. It's again this question. You know, they ruined our city, and I mean, it's always repeating this story. And in our country, we don't have immigrants. That what's good because they don't want to be in our country. We offer them some, but they don't want. They just want to trespass. And what's horrible is that they are trespassing through this region: Montenegro, Bosnia, Serbia, Croatia. And what we are doing under the radar, it's horrible to them because from Montenegro they are coming to Bosnia, and they are not registered anywhere. In Montenegro, don't want to register them because they will have to take care about him. They just put them to Bosnia, and for Bosnia side, they are just returned them to Montenegro, and we all pretend they don't exist. And then there are some reports from immigrants. They said, for example, in some countries, the policemen get to order to hit them by a leg or to hit them to some other part that you cannot see because they know they are all connected, and they are said they are going to tell their other people not come there. They are brutal. Plus, it's horrible what we are doing in 21st century, and it's not only in this region. It's I can imagine how it is. There is a huge number. In Bosnia, maybe we have 100 migrants. It's not more. And we have a problem not with migrants. We have a problem with people that are coming from other cities or other states. For example, in Bosnia, we hate people that come from Montenegro that have the same religion. They have probably the same ancestor as we are. They have the same culture. we are so similar, but we hate each other because they arrived from another city, from maybe 200 kilometers away from us. And in Croatia, they hate people from Herzegovina, Croats that are coming from Bosnia, from West Herzegovina, and we think they are taking our jobs. They are responsible for our unsuccessful life. And I read somewhere a really great sentence: if somebody who came to your city doesn't speak your language, doesn't have home, friends, and everybody is responsible for your life and took your job, then you should think about your competitiveness. And I will end this with yesterday I saw on Twitter a picture of Trump who is choosing a new wall for Mexico, as if it's that he chose to buy a new skirt, or I don't know. It's really not appropriate for this century, and it's horrible what's going on. So I will invite Mr. Chuck ROCHA, who is he's a founder of Solidarity Strategies, to tell us more about the situation.
So like my good friend Ken, I'll start my timer to respect time. Thank you. Thank you for having me. This is my first time at this conference. I've been to London a few times, but it's been many years. For most of you, I've been here for a day and a half, but I haven't spoken to many people. I want to assure you that not all Mexicans from the United States sound like this. I grew up, 1 minute about me, in Texas, as you can't imagine from my big black cowboy hat. I didn't grow up in politics. I didn't grow up with a family involved in politics. I didn't grow up in a family involved in government. I come from a very, very poor family in East Texas. My mother was just 15 when I was born. I was raised in a trailer home, or a mobile home, if you understand what that is, on a little working farm next to my grandparents. My father was Mexican, and my mother was white, lots of different kinds of whiteness, German, French, and then also Native American. So my father left when I was young, and I was raised by my white grandparents, hence why I have this beautiful southern drawl when I speak. I look like my father, very Mexican, but I speak like my white grandfather. That's what makes immigration wonderful, I think. I grew up in the labor movement. I went to work in a factory when I was 19, like a lot of young men in that factory. Luckily, my father, as I remind you, who left when I was 5, got me that job and changed my life literally forever. So I got to work with my hands in a factory that had a union where we made tires for cars. There were 1,300 men there. It was there that I joined the union. And it was there that I, for the first time, got exposed to collective bargaining, collective action, and politics. Local politics, because I don't know how it works in your country, and I'm sure every country's a little different. But in America, on the Democratic side, the unions are very close with the Democratic Party. And because my union had 1,500 men working in that factory and had a very strong and robust union, we were very involved in the local Democratic Party, where I learned about politics, where I learned about lots of things, where I learned about life, where I learned about the world. I'd never been to, as you would say, university. I learned through the toils of my labor and got very involved in the union, which let me grow up to be an activist. I didn't know I was an activist. I do public speaking about activists now. And I think there's a lot of people who don't realize they're activists. But what I realized once I started doing campaigns around Texas and around the Southwest is that there were lots of other brown people and black people and mixed race people, that they all worked. They all worked at some level. And I felt like the work is what drew us all together. I thought the stories of our families is what drew us together. And it kind of leads to the topic today about immigration and about refugees and politics in America. My firm is called Solidarity Strategies. It's called Solidarity Strategies because it's not about the Mexican redneck who runs Solidarity. It's not about my staff, but it's about all of us working together. Our firm is the largest Latino-owned firm in America that does politics and does campaigns and nonprofit work. My firm's been in existence for 8.5 years, and in that time we've had 78 staff come through my firm. My firm is a place in Washington, D.C. where if you're a young brown person who needs their first opportunity in politics, you can work for me. I will train you, I will give you money, and then I will set you on your way to go make even grander money and greater things. Of those 78 staff, you should know that 96% of them were people of color, mixed race, black or brown. You should also know that our firm does mail, we do phones, we do texting, we do digital, we do lots of different things, and we do it in 2 languages, in English and Spanish. We are not, and I stress this, we are not the stereotypical, regular political consulting firm. There's a whole white elite class of consultants in Washington and America that run almost everything. We're the opposite of all of those things, and it starts with me, and it starts with my amazing brown staff. My entire staff are made up of immigrants and children of immigrants, and we now run campaigns at the highest level in Washington, D.C. Our world changed forever 2 years ago. I guess it was May of 2015. When Bernie Sanders called me and said, "Chuck, I need you to help me with my campaign." And I've known Bernie because I had been involved in labor for many years. I've been doing campaigns for 27 years. I know I look remarkably well for a man who's 105, but I've been doing campaigns for a long time. And he said, "Can you help me?" And I was like, "Sure." Like, "You don't want to work for Hillary?" And I'm like, "I'm going to work for you if you'll pay me." And I went to work for Bernie. I was a senior advisor for Bernie. I was a general consultant for Bernie. We did lots of things for Bernie. And I learned a lot from Bernie in that campaign about mobilization, about young people, and it re-energized me. I'm an emotional being as it is, and I think politics are emotional. But I think that you have to connect with people to really make a change, and I think watching what Bernie did was very big. I'm going to click through some slides to tell you about immigrants and refugees in America. This is my amazing senior staff, all brown, all badass. These are some of the rhetoric that you see out there from Donald Trump. This is from the Director of U.S. Immigration. If you're in this country illegally, you should look over your shoulder, and you need to be worried. This is talking about us. Everybody knows our great Attorney General, about how he has rescinded the Deferred Action Program for children that were brought here undocumented. Luis, who's my Vice President, number 3 in charge in my firm, was born in Mexico, was undocumented, and he works under me under President Obama's executive order of DACA. I have DACA recipients who are senior staff for me. The Orange Man in Chief and things he signed to take care of our stuff. The administration's protected over so there was this protection for El Salvadorians because they were living through this horrible experience and they came to America, and now he's even rescinded that. He's attacked immigrants, refugees. Here's what the Latino population looks like in America. This is eligible voters, and these are actually voters, and they're all Latino. This is how Latinos in America vote. This was Clinton, Obama, Trump, McCain. You can see that overwhelmingly Latinos vote Democratic. Hence, one of the reasons Republicans don't want Latinos to be U.S. citizens in any easy way, because they overwhelmingly perform for Democrats. Because guess what? Democrats normally don't attack immigration and Latinos. Recently in Texas, my home state, we elected and are going to elect 2 Latinas for the first time in the history of the United States to Congress in Texas. What I'm getting at here is that there's something happening. This visceralness against refugees and immigrants in America is going to be a backlash. In recent polling, 68% of all Latinos in America say that either a family member or somebody that they know is undocumented. So you would say, why should we separate out people who are undocumented to documented? Well, if you go to attacking Latinos, and I'm a 3rd generation American, it's still very personable to me because my grandparents came here undocumented. And now I pay more taxes than many of my white friends to show what immigration should be about. I've never been to university and own one of the largest firms in America. And I got to run a presidential campaign because that's what immigration and refugees are about. The average age of a Latino in America is 27 years old. The average age of a white person in America is 37. 660,000 Latinos turn 18 every month. Every month. They're U.S. citizens, and they can vote once they turn 18. You start to see the picture, right? Need to mobilize young Latinos, reaching younger demographics. And we, Bernie Sanders, the work that we've done with all the Latino nonprofits that we've worked for, have utilized new technologies. And I tell the story in this way, that when I go in and I do a pitch about cultural competency in politics, And I sit with my staff and I'm pitching someone to hire us. I said, everybody spends all their money to talk to me, the older Mexican, who goes home every evening on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., and I sit down in my chair, and I will have a beer or I will have a whiskey, all depending on how bad my day was. I'll turn on a huge TV, and I will watch baseball, or I'll watch the evening news, and I will relax, and I'll pet my beautiful bulldog, and we'll talk about our day. And they will serve me TV ads, they'll serve me newspaper ads, they'll call me on my phone to tell me to do whatever. My staff are all brown, and they're all under the age of 30. None of them own a TV, none of them have ever seen a landline, and none of them have ever bought a newspaper. But we spend all of our money and resources in America talking to older people like me through 30-second TV commercials, or trying to give them advertising in a way that all of these young people never see and are never exposed to. Let me wrap up by saying this, that it's easy to say, and a cab driver told me this coming over here today, in one of the famous black cabs. When we were talking about, he said, what are you speaking about this morning? I said, immigration. He said, white man. White man, I think he said, it's people from Ireland. He says, we're all immigrants. And I'm like, sure. He's like, if you didn't, everyone came from somewhere, right? And I'm not saying immigration is pure. I'm not saying that there are not problems with immigration and problems with how you deal with refugees. It takes a strong government and people that can figure out how to make it work correctly. Immigration has been broke for a long time in the United States. And it really got broken even worse after 9/11 when we clinched down. And when we clinched down on immigration, we harmed a lot of people who just want to be here and do the right thing and pay their taxes and be part of the fabric of whatever country they want to be in. They're not coming to that country to spread hate and discontent. 99.9% of them are coming there to get a job and to work and be a part of something that they want to believe in. They're leaving a place that they love. Unless there's war, unless there's gangs, unless they become refugees, and then it's a whole other level of how we should deal with those people. My point is this, I'm not an economic expertise on policy, but I am an expert on politics and people. And I know when you treat people fairly, you can get people to do amazing things. And if you disparage people and you talk down to them like a third world person, if you talk to them like a second-rate citizen, you're going to see repercussions in places. And we're seeing that now with every single bit of work that we're doing. You're seeing an uptick in voter registration in people of color, and then you're seeing them turn out en masse. Last night in a race, and I'll end with this, and I'll calm down. Last night in Pennsylvania, in a very blue-collar place in Pennsylvania, where there's lots of white working-class people, not any Latinos, not very many blacks, in a district that Donald Trump won by 20 points. This morning, the Democrat is ahead by 470 votes. Dead even. In a place that Donald Trump won by 20 votes. Does that mean something? It don't mean everything, because there was lots of money spent. There were $15 million spent on one little congressional race. Is that a barometer for everything? No. But all of you smart people who run elections in all of your countries, whether you're conservative or socialist or liberal, whatever, you look at the trends over time, right? And something's happening in America. And when something's happening this strong in America, you need to look at it, analyze it, because it can happen in your country tomorrow. Thank you.
It's inspirational quote, and what we saw is problem is not when a wild guy kills somebody, but the problem becomes when some immigrants do that, and it's not actually okay. And I even wanted to donate some money for Bernie's campaign, but it was not allowed from abroad. So congratulations on that. I would invite Professor Dr. SAHIN KARASAR, he's the rector of MALTEPE University from Istanbul.
Thank you very much. After such wonderful speech by Dr. Selin and Chuck, I hope I do not bore you to death with some stories about Turkey being a country of migration. I call it story because it's not a research finding like Dr. Selin's, or not a personal experience, what Chuck says. my colleague, my friend, Dr. Necati told me that since you are one of the sponsors of the event, you have to say something, but you don't have to answer the questions. Feel free. So I am really feeling free now. As we all know, traditionally, Turkey has been known as a country of emigration. After World War II, between 1960s and 1975, for instance, labor migration was experienced, especially to Germany. There are nearly 3 million gastarbeiters all around Europe as a result of workers' settlements. Turkey, by the way, is a country of immigration as well. This transformation is an outcome of Turkey's rich Anatolian culture and history, which empowers our societal relations. Our strategic geographical location also makes us on demand. What should be underlined here is that the migrants' preferences for Turkey could be as a part of our economic growth as well. I don't know if Dr. Selin is agree or not, but this is what I feel from my side. Mass migration flows to our country continued in early Republican period and later. The most concrete examples of these movements can be summarized as in this table, what is in this slide. For example, between 1922 and 1938 from Greece, upon population exchange, 384,000 migrants were welcomed. The years, number of migrants and reasons behind the migration from Balkans, Germany, Iraq, Bulgaria, Bosnia, Kosovo, Macedonia, and Syria are all demonstrated, as you can see here. No migrant group is trying to find asylum has been refused throughout Turkish history in the eras of Seljuk Empire, Ottoman Empire, and Turkish Republic, with a few exceptions due to war conditions. Turkey has always shown hospitality, anyone in need. Our attitude has made us a country with the highest population of migrants and asylum seekers in the world. According to UNHCR statistics, we host 4 million forcibly displaced people out of 65.6 million all over the world in total. As you can see in the slide, Iraqi migrants rank first in the number of foreigners with resident permit in Turkey, and Syria is the second. And this slide demonstrates the number of Syrian migrants on yearly basis. The years 2016 and 2017 are the outstanding ones, as you see. There are a wide range of opportunities, such as shelters, schools, health services we offer for migrants depicted in these tables by different stakeholders. Migration is a huge issue both for the world and Turkey, and now it's time to narrow down into a hot issue, Syrian migration. The table speaks for itself and demonstrates the motive that drives us to be the focus of the issue. The ranks and awards we are granted are the signs of how we deal with the phenomenon. As you can see, in 2014, Turkey ranked 4th in the list of migrant hosting countries. AFAD project operating and observing all the administrative work and operations in temporary sheltering centers won the UN Public Service Award in 2015. And Turkey became the most generous donor of the world in 2016 by sparing almost 1% of its national income to the migrants. And Turkey ranks 2nd in the world for humanitarian aid, named the most generous donor, with allocation for migrants after the United States of America, according to 2017 Global Humanitarian Assistance Report. On this slide, we can see the sheltered and unsheltered Syrian migrants in temporary shelter centers. In terms of the profile of Syrian migrants, we see many differences and inequality in gender, socio-cultural and socio-economic and labor market structure and the level of education. More than half of these migrants are women and children who face social upheaval and gender discrimination and abuse and are forced to live in conditions that no human being should have to endure in their countries they have fled from. We should emphasize here that the advantage we benefit from is Syrian migrants' contribution to trade, by the way. The presence of refugees compounds are the already prevailing economic, environmental, and social, and at times political difficulties in these countries, as we know. Turkey bends over backwards, both financially and spiritually, waiting for collaboration of European Union. Although European Union countries have made commitments on helping with the Syrian migrants issue, we have not been contributed fully yet, as all you know. Migrant Law 64/58 on foreigners and international protection was approved on April 10, 2013 to regulate the principles and procedures with regard to foreigners who seek protection, calling them conditional migrants. The ones without conditional migrant requirements are given subsidiary protection. International workforce law introduced a new type of work permit in Turkey called Turquoise Card as of August 2016. Turquoise Card may grant eligible foreigners to work permanently in some sectors. There are many administration and regulation policies on the migration. Some of these are seen in the tables. These policies are carried out with the help of some governmental organizations. These are the Syrian migrants are offered in a democratic environment, embellished with sentiment. Turkish society's tolerance level for migrants is high, thanks to our young population, easily adaptable to any change. Despite many hot debates, Syrian migrants' contribution to many areas such as culture, art, education, trade, and etc. has helped to create a positive public opinion. A mutual life effort is increasing with the help of tolerance, indulgence, collaboration, and solidarity. Any migration brings some risks, of course. However, with the comprehensive strategies, all risks could turn into opportunities for both nationalities, the migrants and the hosting countries, I mean. Turkey has set an example with its migration policies to the world, I believe. We have been more sensitive to human rights than the pioneering countries on that issue. Concepts for global peace and harmony should be internalized, giving end to polarization. Humanitarian plight Syrian migrants face makes all neighboring and European countries responsible on the issue. All economic and social costs of migration waves in Turkey should be supported by global collaboration, which will relieve Turkey. Migrant acceptance requirements should be more flexible, of course. The importance given to human rights should be reflected on Syrian migrants in order to increase reliability. We should bear in mind that greater humanitarian assistance in besieged areas, deeper thought on the viability of safe zones, and more extensive resettlement of refugees is needed. UNHCR and NGOs should work hand in hand. It's not clear from time to time whether they are competitors or companions in migrant protection. Many NGOs are underfinanced and they could be a threat to local safety. As Turkish state has established population migration and citizenship policies, this Syrian migration process will have no effect on the elections, or will have limited effect on the elections, let's say. 150 to 2,000 Syrian repatriated to northern areas of Syria, cleared up from ISIS and PYD terror organization, and after Afrin operation, probably it's protected that the hundreds of or thousands of Syrians will go back to that area to settle down again. I really feel honored to be a part of the organization. I hope all of us will get benefit from the discussions that are going on here for the last 2 days. And thank you very much for inviting me again.
Thank you, Professor KARASAR. Now, do you have any question for Mr. ROCHA? Because it's not allowed to have question for Mr. KARASAR. Just joking. Please, do you have some? Any questions? We have a few minutes. Yes, please.
I have a question for Chuck. So, what are you finding in terms of, for Middle America and more of the Trump support base, or at least those who are maybe souring on Trump right now? So, when we look at messages around we're all immigrants, or a nation of immigrants, this history, are any of those effective? Is it from an economic lens? Are those things? Is it this is challenging and questioning our values? I mean, what is working for Middle America as we try to frame the immigration issue and some of the real egregious things that policy changes that are being suggested and made?
It's a great question. First of all, the electorate in America is broke up into 3 segments. This is very generic. The numbers skew a little bit, but let's think in our mind that 25% of America is hard right-wing conservatives. They would never vote for a Democrat. They hate immigrants. That's who they are. 25% of America is on the whole other scale. They're very liberal, all the things that are associated with liberalism, far left views, and they're gonna vote for any Democrat anytime. Sometimes Democrats aren't even as liberal as they would like. So they vote for Green Party and Working Man Party, blah, 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 put them over there. Then there's the sweet spot right in the middle. So that leaves you 50% of the country who really is not hardcore Republican, they're not hardcore Democrat. Those people are open to the messages that you're thinking about. A lot of times, the parties spend, and politicians, too much time talking to each side, when we should be talking to people in the middle. And the people in the middle are open to a common sense solution to immigration. But immigration is not the issue for them. The issue for them is always economic stability, stability in our global markets, stability in the stock market. And so those people have lost confidence in Donald Trump for those reasons. Now, Donald Trump and the Republicans will talk about building a wall. They will talk about immigrants this. They will get rid of protections for El Salvadorians because that's feeding that 25% on the right to make sure that they show up and they get more people to show up. Donald Trump got elected with just that 25%. And Hillary Clinton's campaign was not that strong. A lot of people didn't show up. So you almost segment out the voters in those places. But in the middle, in the peaceful and middle America, who are common sense figuring out this thing, they are supportive of the dream action of young immigrants that are coming here who are brought here as children. But the driving force for them is not the wall. The driving force for them is making sure that there's jobs and opportunity for their children and that they can prosper.
Thank you. Any more questions? I will say, I also have one question for Mr. ROCHA. Usually we said we need young candidates so that we can move young people, young voters to get to vote. And we in the US, we have some unusual situation that actually Bernie Sanders, who is older, to bring so much people on his side. Really, I didn't see anywhere so much young people really get involved and support such an old guys all over the country.
This is true. The kids love the old man, love him. And you know, I've been doing campaigns for a long time, and my best analysis of why, and you know, Ken, who's sitting back here, who did all the modeling, knows exactly why, but he can't tell you a secret unless you pay him $1 million, and he'll tell you. But the real thing was a connection. Was a connection to be able to believe. When I stood at the podium and said that I got inspired, I was inspired because I had forgotten what it was like to truly believe. I'd forgotten how when I was young, there was nothing I couldn't accomplish. So when Bernie Sanders talked about free education for children who kept their grades up and went to a community college, when he said that everyone should have health care, these young people were like, yes, we should. And old people were like, that could never happen, you dreamer, you kid, there's no way, right? But they believed. And it gave them inspiration because he constantly talked about it. He never differentiated. And that's B on the messaging. C was we actually went and talked to those young people. So for one example, this is free political advice for you, there'll be no charge, is that when we were in Iowa, when we were going to talk to kids, we sent letters to children that were in high school, that were just 17 years old, because all of their friends had been seeing Bernie Sanders on the internet and all of the digital advertising we have been doing. We had Bernie write a handwritten letter to children that were 17, who would be 18 by the election, so they could caucus, they could participate in the Iowa caucuses, saying, we believe in you, 17-year-old kid. We want you to come caucus for me, Bernie Sanders. I don't care who your mom and daddy is caucusing for. I'm asking you to. Never in the history of politics in America has any politician spent any time talking to these kids, right? So A is, they don't go vote as well as the old people. But B, they had never been asked because they're not a prime voter. That's going back to my original statement. that we continue to do the same kind of politics. If you're a prime voter, if you're modeled in the universe, if you're micro-targeted, sure, you're an older white man who goes and votes every election. Nobody's going and actually messaging on the internet directly to that young brown kid, to my child, where they're at, to say, what is your beliefs? What do you believe in? Because most of these kids right now, they're not Democrat, they're not Republican, they're just pissed.
Thank you.
Please.
Yeah. What is going to happen to the Latino vote? I'm asking Chuck. When Senators Rubio or Cruz or somebody like that runs on the Republican ticket?
It's the crux of my being, because it worries me to death as a Democrat, right? Because Latinos are very much brand loyal, right? We like Coca-Cola, we like certain hamburgers, we like certain beans, there are certain things, brands mean something, right? So if a Latino goes into a polling place and there's a Jones, there's a Wilson, and there's a Rodriguez, we're always going to vote for the Rodriguez, to your point, right? So if we had a Senator Rubio running against maybe a Bernie Sanders for president in 2020, right? I worry that that the numbers will skew more than they ever have towards Republicans. Because in Florida, and the Cuban population in America is very Republican. Older Cubans, ones who came from the island. They are like 70% Republicans. And then the other Latinos in America are very, very Democratic, Puerto Ricans, Mexicans, Dominicans. So I think that even though Rubio's policies have not fallen in line with where most Latinos are, we would see a drop-off of a certain percentage that I can't tell you about, because his name is Rubio, if he was running against an Anglo name at a national level, right? So I think that's always been something that I'm worried about, but I don't have any backed up or analytics, or I've talked to Ken about what would that mean to our support. But I think that it would cut into that support. In Texas, where I'm from, there's lots of Latinos in the Valley that will run as a Republican, and they take on Democrats that are Latino. The Latinos still overwhelmingly vote for Democrats, but not near the margins that you saw on the presidential side. It's much more 60-40, 65-35 type stuff, so yes, you're right.
Thank you. We don't have any more questions. I will thank our panelists, and we have now coffee break 15 minutes. I will ask you to be here at 10:45